Keep in mind, this is just a single map, a custom multiplayer scenario for a real-time strategy game. But as with many iconic games in the video game industry, Dota has its own history and influence. A few months after the release of Warcraft 3: Reign of Chaos, a map called Defense of the Ancients began floating around on Battle.net. This was made by Yule. This map, along with another one called Valley of Descent, had something that made it stand out from other maps at the time: custom abilities for heroes. The map editor for Reign of Chaos allowed you to edit units and items, but it did not allow you to edit spells and unit abilities. The ability data had to be extracted from the MPQ archive, modified using either a notepad or an SLK editor, then imported into the map to create these custom spells. I was blown away when I first played this. Because of its originality back then, players were drawn to it, and the map continued to gain momentum. With the release of the Frozen Throne expansion for Warcraft 3, we received an improved map editor that had more features, such as being able to create and edit unit abilities, and it made it easier to create triggers in JAS, the scripting language used in Warcraft 3. However, the original creator did not update the map. Instead, the map was released in an unprotected form, and several different versions were spawned, with All-Stars eventually becoming the most popular. This version was introduced by Mayan and followed up by Ginsu. The map was updated frequently, with the main additions being new heroes and items. As its popularity continued to rise, so did the controversy surrounding it. Many classic Dota players and several members of the modding community alleged that most of the map's content was stolen from other people. Ginsu has claimed that the map's content was created from scratch, only admitting to copying the terrain of the original map as well as a few hero ideas. The name of the original mapmaker was removed from the credits, only remaining on the map in the form of an item, Yule's Scepter of Divinity. After the release of version 6.01, there were unconfirmed reports that Ginsu stopped updating the map to devote his time to play World of Warcraft. It was at this time that further development of the map was taken over by IceFrog and Nichis. Each successive version introduced not only new heroes and items, but many bug fixes and balance changes as well. The credits were improved, ensuring the major contributors of content for the map were displayed, but due to the text limit in the credits, the full list had to be placed externally. As the map continued to be developed, full control of the project was eventually turned over to IceFrog alone. There were many AOS maps created in Warcraft 3. You can pick up and play many of these maps easily because they stayed simple. You had a small number of heroes, and it only took a couple games to really get into it, but the metagame is always the same, and the map will become stagnant as time goes on. Dota, in contrast, is much more complicated. A large number of heroes, plus a continuously evolving metagame and frequent patching of the map, helped to keep the gameplay fresh, and the fans always introduced more people to the map. As the Dota community continued to grow, a number of key things were produced. One of them was a set of well-defined roles. These are not integrated into the map itself. It's more of an idea of how the game can be played best. Instead of having 5 players kicking ass and taking names, each player contributes to the team in a specific way, not just having a high kill count. I briefly mentioned tanks earlier. These are meant to soak up the damage for the team, and depending on the hero, they also have stuns or crowd control abilities. Junglers can effectively kill neutral creeps at the beginning of a game. This allows 2 players to benefit from a solo lane instead of one, providing a significant golden experience advantage in the early game. The carry is the one you'll hear of most often. As the name implies, they're the ones who will carry the team to victory. The heroes are very weak in the early game, but they deal the most damage once they obtain the necessary items and experience. There are many more roles than the ones I've discussed. Players may also serve more than one role in a game, depending on their team composition. The vast amount of depth in the map ensures a high level of replayability in competition, and because of this, the map itself actually had recognition from the world of esports. In 2005, it debuted for tournament play at BlizzCon and was also featured in the Malaysia and Singapore World Cyber Games, Also adopting Dota for their video game lineup are the CyberAthlete Amateur League, the Cyber Evolution Leagues, and the Electronic Sports World Cup. Dota's reception across the globe has made it as popular as games like Counter-Strike and StarCraft, but a good chunk of its die-hard fans originate from a single country, the People's Republic of China. This region's gaming culture is vastly different from that of North America or Europe. For one thing, the video game consoles we all know and love have been banned since the year 2000. Games containing things like sex, drugs, extreme violence, or content that vilifies the Chinese government are also banned. Much of the video game culture revolved around the toned-down, inexpensive PC gaming content. This means MMORPGs and games like Counter-Strike, Warcraft 3, and of course, Dota. The lag on Battle.net may not be suitable to play on because of the built-in 250 millisecond delay. As an alternative, many Dota players will suggest you use programs and services such as Tungle or Garena. These create a virtual LAN between the players, allowing you to take advantage of the LAN feature in Warcraft 3. This only has a 100 millisecond delay, so the game will be much more responsive as long as you have a good internet connection to support this. In addition, you also have a number of social features like friends list and chat rooms to help you organize the games quickly. It's difficult to discern how many players actually play Dota. Based on statistics from GetDota.com, along with several Chinese websites, a very conservative estimate will place this number at approximately 20 million players worldwide. Not too shabby. When you have a player base this large, it's inevitable that sooner or later, someone will get the idea to turn this custom map into a commercial game. This has already happened, many times in fact, all with varying degrees of success. But there are 3 games that stood above the pack. Heroes of Newerth was made by S2 Games. A closed beta began in 2009, with the game officially released in 2010. The game takes place in the Newerth universe from the Savage games. Many of the heroes were ported from Dota, and they were given some minor changes. The original price was $30, not for the game itself, but for an account to play on. The game eventually switched to a free-to-play model. League of Legends is one you've probably heard of one way or another. This was made by Riot Games, who offered a closed beta in 2009 and released the game later that year. The game tries to reduce the learning curve by simplifying the game mechanics. You can't deny creeps, you can't buy back your hero, and the couriers were replaced with a universal recall ability. League of Legends is arguably the most played game in the entire world, with over 32 million active players and over 1 billion hours played every month. The latest entry to the genre is none other than the sequel itself. IceFrog was brought on by Valve to lead the development of Dota 2. The game debuted at Gamescom 2011. The full release of Dota 2 is expected to be out in 2013. This game runs under the Source engine and tries to replicate everything in the original Dota. All the heroes and items remain the same, though anything tied to Warcraft-related material was modified to avoid any copyright infringement. Any balance changes made to Dota 2 by IceFrog is mirrored in the original Warcraft 3 map. All of these games include the standard features we would expect from a modern game engine: smoother frame rates, widescreen resolutions, and optimized netcode to keep the lag down as much as possible. We also have features specifically designed for the gameplay. These games focus on a single hero, so the controls in the game are designed around this. To avoid tying up newer players with reading tooltips, the item shops have a recommended item set for every hero that players can just buy and not worry about. All the social features like friends lists and chat channels are built into the client, and they even have systems in place for dealing with abusive players who ruin the fun for everyone else. On top of that, all of these games are free to play. The most amazing of them all is the Reconnect feature. If for whatever reason you disconnect from the game, you have the opportunity to rejoin and continue playing. This is an absolute godsend. So many good games of Dota were ruined because of a dropped connection. Now these games can be salvaged with the players able to rejoin. This is especially useful in competitive play. The original Dota had a healthy tournament scene, but these games took it even further. For League of Legends, YouTube videos and tournament live streams are embedded on the front page of the game client. Many League of Legends tournaments were supported by Riot themselves with prize money and circuit points. These points are used to qualify teams for Riot's World Championship tournament. The Season 2 World Championship had a massive $2 million prize pool, with $1 million being awarded to the champion. Valve and Dota 2 have worked the same way. Again, there's tournament exposure in the client itself, not just with promotion, but also the ability to connect to the game itself and spectate. Valve also throws their own tournament every year called The International. The teams compete for the $1 million grand prize with a total prize pool of $1.6 million.
1K Crick comes out from a force. Now on a Sylar. How's going to go down? This is so GG. Na'Vi! They go to the second grand final here for the International.
The events for these games are a spectacular sight to see, whether you're there in person, watching at a bar with the local fans, or watching the stream from the comfort of your own home. Long story short, Dota is awesome. It has very dynamic gameplay, a huge amount of replayability, and strong support from the community. It has everything a successful commercial game should have. With a cast of over 100 heroes to choose from, and updated versions released frequently, your strategies will change with every game that you play. Realistically, anyone can play Dota. Anyone can control a single hero, kill or be killed, win or lose, and have fun playing the map. But to truly understand how the game is played, why players pick certain heroes, and why heroes are played a certain way, you have to do your homework. Would it be accurate to say I have no idea how to play Dota properly? Possibly. Most gamers will never figure out how to play Dota properly. But for everyone else, this is the kind of hardcore game that most AAA developers are afraid to make. Many players are willing to study all of this. They're willing to experiment with new builds and playstyles. Why? Because they love the challenge, the competition, the community. It's not about just playing the game and having the fun served to you on a silver platter. Many players are very passionate about this game and they take it very seriously. That's not a bad thing. They wanted to see this grow, and after the community put in years of hard work, look at the result. Look at all the great things that spawned from this community. Whether you realized it or not, this was history in the making. It's impossible for me to do this mod justice. You have to play it yourself to believe it. The experience it delivers is unparalleled, so if you haven't played this yet, you really are missing out.
Double kill.